Good evening. What a contentious group of people that has come here tonight. I'm just kidding. Welcome. It's good to see you all. We have some information to pass on. So, just to recap our MO around here, we have two different kinds of meetings at this church. We have information meetings where we don't vote on anything, we just share information. And then we have business meetings, and at business meetings we vote. This is an information meeting. So all we're going to do tonight is share information. And, if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand, interact. This is a lot more casual than normal. And we have about, I think, 3 things to share. Pastor Brad's going to share a few of them, and I'm going to back clean up, so to speak. But before we open in a word of prayer, I do have a prayer request that came in late this afternoon. Many of you know that Bonnie Rumbarger has been grappling with pancreatic cancer, and in a very difficult diagnosis. And so this afternoon got a note from Bud that Bonnie is being taken to Riverside, and she's got some perforations in her intestine, which is leading to a lot of infection. So we can be in prayer over that. That's a very serious condition, as you know. Don't want to get infection in your abdomen like that. And so probably, I don't know if this is a side effect of chemo or what, but so we need to be praying for Bonnie and Bud. With all that in mind, let's look to the Lord in prayer. Father, your goodness to us just never ceases to amaze me. And Father, I thank you that we're sitting here tonight. We've got a ministry that is debt-free. You've given us a tremendous tool to work with in this building that's able to house our church, provide a place for us to gather and worship, but also to house a Christian school, pre-K through 12 for your glory, to educate young people, not only in the fundamental things that they need, like reading and writing and arithmetic and so on and so forth, but also in how those things connect and how their lives connect to you through your word. So, Father, we're very grateful to be gathered here tonight and to be able to talk about kind of the business side of the way things are going here and just different things like that. So, Father, I just pray that you would be glorified in this meeting and that we would do a good job of articulating and sharing the things that we need to share, and that all the questions might be answered, and that everyone here might be edified. Father, we do lift up the Rumbargers. This diagnosis, when it came, was not an easy one to hear about, and so we pray for Bud and Bonnie as they process through that. But then tonight, Father, it seems like her health has taken a turn, and surgery is required immediately. And so, Father, give them safety, we pray, as you would have them transported to the hospital, Riverside, and as Bonnie undergoes surgery. And also just knowing that given the COVID-19 situation that we're in, that Bud is probably going to be, in a large part, alone through this waiting process. And Father, for anybody who's been through it, we know how hard that is. Doctor says the surgery will take an hour, it takes 3. And you got to be patient. So, Father, we pray for comfort and patience for him. Keep his spirits on an even keel. And, Father, help him just to believe the best about whatever's going on in the ER. And we just pray that you would oversee the whole process tonight. We ask your blessing on this meeting. It's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen. All right, Pastor Brad is going to come and thrill us and chill us with Sacrifice Sunday and COVID updates.
Church updates, not COVID updates. I'm not under the authority to give any of those, but for those that are watching, just a couple things to remind you of. If you have a question, I know sometimes some of you like to text those to me. I do not have my phone on me. It is turned off in my office to make sure that as often as the case, many of you that like to send me football game scores don't do that. So, because there's a specific game going on. So, if you have questions, Don is going to be monitoring the streams in the back, and he will get those to me. If you send me one of those questions, I might respond to it at about 10:30 at night when I turn my phone back on, so just FYI. Or you can send me an email with any questions that you have on these things. That's bharris, BHARRIS, at the church website, delawarebible.org, bharris@delawarebible.org. So if you're with us in the room, this sheet was available right in the back there. As you walk in by the doors, I would encourage you to grab one of those if you haven't. For those that are watching, that same sheet is available on the church website where you would pick up the sermon notes, where it says worship digitally, there on the front page of the website, or it has also been posted there on the Facebook page. So I would encourage you to follow along with us as we walk through this. So the first thing that we're going to be doing before we get to the Sacrifice Sunday document is we are going to be working through some updates just regarding church services and how things are going and all that kind of stuff. So Pastor Scott, this clicker is not working for me. This is what happens when I don't use my clicker. We connected in, Don? Good.
What are you doing? Well, first of all, I got to turn the switch on.
I did.
Don did it. Why don't you try getting out of the presentation and get back in real quick? This is thrilling live stream.
There we go. Or did he change that? There we go. There we go. All right, we're all good. So as we begin, the first thing that we're going to be talking about is we're just going to be giving you an update both in person and virtually on how things are looking, and then we're going to talk just very briefly some Reader's Digest financials for here at the church. So I want to share some updates with you regarding the Sunday service attendance. So each week, Ray goes around, he does the count for this, and then I put it into a digital spreadsheet, and I've got some of this data to feed back to you regarding in-person attendance here at the church. So we began reopening for services on 5/17/20, May the 17th, 2020, after a little over 2 months, I believe it was. I think we were 9 weeks where we were worshiping from home. So from that day to today, so today's totals are included, we have averaging around 188 people here each Sunday. And I took that number from all of the attendance numbers, taking out the lowest 3 Sundays. So there were a couple weeks, for example, there was the one week where we had a lot of people that were not in attendance because we recently had the COVID spike in the school, those type of things. I took those 3 weeks out for that. So we're averaging right around 188 folks per week. With that, our highest attended Sunday morning was a few weeks ago where we had 291 folks here in church. Our lowest attended was right after that spike that we mentioned where we had 69 people in church. That being said, right now we're averaging roughly 45 to 55% of our folks in here most weeks. And that number hasn't changed a lot. We have seen a little bit of variation here and there, but for the most part, it seems like the folks that are here and they're ready to come back to church. The ones that are staying at home, they're going to stay in church for a while longer. So that's pretty much what we're seeing right now, and that kind of looks like this on a graph. So again, there's some ups and some downs, but for the most part, we're pretty much seeing across the board pretty similar numbers there. As we look at our online attendance, let me first say this, that as we look at online attendance, there's no perfect metric that we have to track online attendance. What do I mean by that? Well, we currently offer our online streaming through 3 services, through Boxcast, which is who shoots it out through the cloud to the other places, through the church Facebook page, and through YouTube. And each one of those streaming channels utilizes a different set of analytics of the structures that we can look at for the data. So that being said, there's no one system where I can look at everything and say, this is exactly what this means for us. But that being said, there's some stuff that we can look at and work with that. So with those 3 things, they each look at different ways to be able to share with us information. So for example, let's say that you're watching the service from home and all of a sudden it just stops and it buffers and it just goes back and around and around and again, you're probably going to refresh your page. Well, that would be another view on that website. So Boxcast, who we go through for our streaming, who we mostly call it like streaming through the church website, it takes you to their page. They have what they call unique views, which is, I think, the best way to look at it. And that is unique devices that look at or that are watching our services. So you could refresh your page 10 times, but it's only going to be one unique view. Facebook does what they call 1-minute views, which is still a pretty good metric, and that if somebody is sitting there for more than a minute, they're pretty invested in what they're watching. YouTube doesn't do either. They just do total views. So what we've done then is we've added the three together, and then I subtract 20 from that to try to account for that repeated viewers, how that works. Is there a perfect number for that? No. But that's kind of what we're doing to look at our total online total. Now with that, that is counting unique views through devices. So that doesn't mean that, let's say that you're watching your service with 8 people, your entire family with you, that's going to be one of these. Whereas if I'm watching it in my home, that's also one. So we don't have the exact number with that of viewers, we just have the number of devices watching. So with that, our average online attendance per week is 163 devices. With that, that's both live viewers and those who are going to watch at a later time that fit into that metric. Our highest attendance was not on Easter, it was the week after Easter, where we had 299 devices that were watching. And our lowest was Labor Day weekend, where we had 78 devices watching. So with that, here on this graph, what you're going to see in blue the online, and you're going to see in the other color there, I believe it's like an orangish color, it kind of looks red on the back screen there, you're going to see the in-person attendance. And you can't really take too much from this data other than this, that as oftentimes you see the red go up, you see the online, the blue, go down, and the other way around. Now, is there any real reason that we can, or thing that we can really track with this data? No, but it's interesting to see. But here's what we can tell you. It seems like from our vantage point, from what we can see, we are seeing a lot of great retention both in here within the room and those watching online. So it doesn't seem like all of a sudden the people that have not been here within the room all of a sudden have suddenly mailed it in and are no longer going to church, based off what we can see from the numbers. Previously, our elders called many of the folks that we haven't seen here within the room, and they've said, yeah, we've been watching the stream, we're able to do that. There are very few within our body that have no accessibility to our services. So we praise the Lord for that. With that, let me give a church giving update, and then I'll answer any questions that you may have either on giving or on attendance. Church giving update is real simple. We're going to be looking at 3 things that Jolene shared with me. This is the giving from the beginning of our fiscal year, from August 1 to October the 31st, so the end of last month, which we currently have financial records for. Year-to-date giving from that point is $191,414. We had budgeted for that point of the year $173,254. Now this is the big praise the Lord moment. Our to-date expenses are $158,501, which means that we began this month in the black, $32,913 in the black. So praise the Lord for that. Again, we're very thankful that despite the pandemic, despite certain people not being here, they're still faithfully giving, whether putting their check in the mail, giving online, through Zelle, digitally, however they're doing that, through the church website. So again, we praise the Lord for that. So before I jump into Sacrifice Sunday then, any questions at all on anything that was shared on any of the data that I just shared with you? Wonderful. So let's move into Sacrifice Sunday. Let's tell you what we're doing and what the plan will be for this year. And again, this is all available in the handout. It's available both digitally and here within the room. And we will also send this out in the weekly update email this week, along with this video for folks to watch that may have missed. So as we look at the Sacrifice Sunday goal for this year, as the elders looked at it, we determined that based on where giving was at, it makes sense to have our goal as pretty much similar to what we've had at the last several years, because giving hasn't went down, praise the Lord. So we are hoping and budgeting we are planning for $41,000 for this. With that, as we've done the last several years, some of the money that's collected here are going to serve the needs of other people completely outside of our ministry. Some will serve the needs inside of our ministry that don't go to church here, and then others will serve specifically our church body. I would say with many of these, though, they impact a bunch of those, if not all of them. So as we begin, as you look at the sheet there, it's going to share with you these items in order that they are going to be funded. So let's say we don't match $41,000. Well, then we'll go up to the amount allotted there for each item. So if we don't quite get everything, we'll still be able to fund some of these things. And they will be funded in the following order. The first thing that you will see at the top of the list that we're going to be collecting money for is for the Regional Biblical Counseling Training Conference that will happen here at DBC in the fall of 2020 over 3 weekends. And as you see those weekends there on the page, here is my encouragement to you. We already have a website that is up through ACBC for this regional conference that's going to be going on here. And if you want to be a part of that, our encouragement to you is to sign up for that as soon as you can, because it's going to be limited to the number of seats within this room that we're able to have open at that point. So we will have that as well in the weekly update this week, a link where you can link right to it and you can sign up. The sooner you can do that, the better. And I believe the cost for that, what is it, $250, something like that? Right around $250. So again, encourage you to do that sooner rather than later. Mark those dates on your calendar now. So one of the things that Pastor Scott's dreamed of doing for quite a while is hosting this conference here, and ACBC said, hey, we would like to have one in Central Ohio. So that being said, one of his dreams was to be able to give all of our teachers, all of our staff, and all the ministries on Delaware Bible Church, LLC, biblical counseling training. And so that being said, we're going to do that. We're going to provide the training, and all teachers and all staff are going to be required to go to that as part of their professional development next year. So that first $12,500 is going to go towards providing it for all teachers, for all staff, and as well, it's also going to provide scholarships for people here in the church that need it as well. So if you're a person that says, hey, I really want to go to that, but I don't have the funds to be able to do that, well, as we collect this money, then let us know, and we would love to be able to give you a scholarship for that. So we're trying to get as many people as we can equipped and be able to go to that event. So again, the dates are there for that. Again, encourage you sooner rather than later to sign up for that. I'll go through each of these, and then I'll answer some questions after that. Second item you'll see is Impact Week, and you'll see that the number for Impact Week is a little bit higher than what it normally is. So after that $12,500 is collected, the next $5,000 is going to go towards Impact Week, and I'm really excited for what we're planning on doing this year. So if you were to think to yourself about those who were mostly, or whose jobs were mostly affected by COVID, they're still working, but their job and their workload has greatly been impacted by it. Outside of first responders, outside of small business owners, some of the folks that were most affected by COVID have been our teachers, right? They've had to go digital, they've had to go in person, they've had to do both. And so our goal for this year is to collect $5,000, and we're going to take that money and we are going to, as we did previously with the police department, we're going to use that specifically to bless all teachers, and if we can make it work, if we can stretch it that thin, all staff at our local city schools and those that serve here within our ministry at Delaware Christian School. We're going to have a team together that will plan that will figure out how we're going to do that, and that's something that we would be doing early next year sometime. So that's something we're really looking forward to, just to say, hey, we're cheering you on, we're rooting for you, we're thankful for what you're doing, and hopefully have an impact there and be able to share the good news of Jesus Christ with them. Below that on the sheet, you'll see that if there's any money left over for that, and I can tell you when our previous outreaches through Impact Week, there's usually not much, if any, or we go a little bit over on that, but not much. If there's any money left over for that, we'll split it between the benevolent fund and then also the fund, the Camp and Retreat Fund that goes towards student scholarships. So let's talk about those specifically here real quick. The Camp and Retreat Fund is what we collect to help kids go to, for example, the Strength to Stand conference, any camp or spiritual retreat, and it's not available just to teens, but often they're the ones that take advantage of it here within our church. And so that is not something that we put budgetary funds towards. It's something that from time to time we'll ask you to replenish or we make collections for and that kind of thing. So we're going to collect $2,000 specifically for that fund to help fund kids going to camp, kids going to a spiritual retreat, those type of things as people request them, but as well for our benevolent fund here within the church. And that is for folks who come in either inside or outside of the church specifically for financial needs and help. Now, primarily with those in the benevolent fund or that are seeking help from that, almost exclusively, unless it's a church person who we know that has a solid testimony, they have a sit-down meeting with me. I find out their needs. We help them with those things, and they hear in some way, shape, or form a gospel presentation. Depending on the circumstances, I might be able to share the entire gospel with them, or I may be able to invite them for follow-up to share more with them. So that being said, all the money that's going to be collected from those things is going to be going to opportunities where either the word is going to be shared or the gospel is going to be proclaimed or both. After that money is collected, so let's say we get over that amount and we reach we go over $21,000, which is the total amount there. We're going to move on towards taking care of our Awana ministry. And so our Awana ministry is in need of a new Awana track. Now, the old track that we have had, Dan Witt built many, many years ago, and it finally, after many years of faithful service, bit the dust right at the end of our TNT group, right before we got to the adults this last year. So that being said, it's time for us to get a new track. We're still offering to donate our current one if a church wants it, that has somebody that can really do repairs to it. But I told Dan Witt we were going to be doing this, and he said, "Well, it's about time." So he knew it was time. For those who don't know, the Grand Prix, we normally hold it in March, and it is even more so than the closing ceremony, our biggest opportunity to be able to share the gospel with parents who join us for that, because here's the thing, there's a lot of dads that don't drop their kids off at Awana, they don't come to the closing ceremony, anything like that, but they do help their kids build their car. And so they want to see that car race. And so every year that we do that, we clearly share the gospel with them. It's a great opportunity there. So we are going to collect $2,000 to get a new aluminum track for that we believe will last us for many years. And it's also going to take care of some of the other things that we'll need with that, such as they have the sensors that tell us in what order. These new ones are really cool because they also tell you how fast the cars went, and some software for that that'll help just generally speed things along with that. So $2,000 will go towards that. And then we have our final project, which is an HVAC heat wheel. Now, before we jump into this heat wheel, you may be thinking to yourself, hey, wait a second. I thought we were doing a big HVAC project last summer that got postponed. And here is what I want you to do. I want you to completely set that out of your mind, because that in and of itself doesn't have anything to do with this project. They're two separate projects. One helps the other, but they are not in and of themselves related. So that being said, we'll talk about the bigger heat project after we get through Sacrifice Sunday, just briefly. So that being said, one of the issues you may have noticed previously is if you go into one of our Sunday school rooms in the 300 building, that's if you go down near where the gym is, you make a right, and you go in the far hallway there, and you go there in the summer, it is incredibly humid in those rooms. It's very sticky. It doesn't feel very good. And one of the reasons for that is because the humidification in there isn't great. So we are going to help that by purchasing one of these things called a heat wheel. And so basically, if you can see the picture there, what the heat wheel does is it helps bring warm air out and bring cool air in, if I can share it in as Reader's Digest, less complicated version as possible. And so as it does that, it's going to further help the humidity problems that we have within this space. It looks somewhat like this, although they're different sizes and that kind of a thing. So we are going to help dehumidify and aid the efficiency of the HVAC unit in that building. Engineer-wise, was that as simple? Did I do all right with that? Am I trying to make it as simple as I can? Did that make sense? All right. Pastor Scott, the engineer, is with me there, so that's the plan. Couple things before we answer some questions. The total goal for that is $41,000. We will be collecting that money, as we often do, on the third week of December, December the 20th, during the morning worship service. Now, that being said, as we have done previously, we will accept that money up until the end of the year. So you can give after that, but we encourage those who cannot give on that date to give prior to that date. Online giving for that, and as well, you can start marking your checks and envelopes for that beginning next week. So we'll start collecting for it, but really, we like to have a date, and this is where we're all doing it together. So that will officially open up, though, next week. With that, looks like I copied my slide there twice. With that, as you give towards it, as always, mark your check or envelope, Sacrifice Sunday. And as well, if you choose to give online, it'll be there on the website. And then if you go through Zelle, which, by the way, you can give digitally through Zelle, and there's no charge like there is on their website. Just type Sacrifice Sunday in the memo so we know where your gift goes. If there is any money left over, let's say we get $43,000. Any money that you give above and beyond that is going to go towards the HVAC project that we are going to complete this upcoming summer, the one that got delayed last summer due to COVID-19. That being said, I'll come back to these other things here, but any questions that you have on any of the Sacrifice Sunday things that were mentioned here? If you're watching with us, Don is monitoring those streams as well on Facebook and YouTube. We're glad to answer any questions there. I will repeat the question so that they can hear it online as well. Yes.
Would you think there's any kind of explanation for the on the budget side, the decrease in expenses? Or do you think it's worth maybe trying to share, where was that because during the lockdown we were maybe funding fewer ministries during that time?
Yeah, and so Pastor Aaron asked, do we view the decrease in expenses as based on, we haven't been doing as much with certain ministries during that time and that kind of stuff? I don't have a good solid answer without looking at the full P&L and all the budget items and that kind of stuff. I would say that we have seen some of that. For example, some of the outreach stuff or that kind of thing that we would have been doing in August or since the new budget year began, we haven't been doing. Like, for example, I haven't spent any money on First Friday, that kind of stuff. As well, we probably had, and again, I don't know this off the top of my head, maybe some lesser utility budgets on some things because not as much has been going on. But, we'd have to do a deeper dive into that for when we're looking more in budget season and exactly why we would say there. I would say generally speaking, though, I'd say probably expense-wise in general, we've been running a little tighter ship. So, I would say it's probably a lot of little things. But along with that, too, there are certain parts of the year where we have certain line items allocated in the budget where a bunch gets taken out at once. So then we look at some months and it's really light, and other months, for example, like when we do the floor waxing, basically we do that in 2 or 3 chunks, right? So where bigger checks are being cashed then, so it looks more like it at one time. So it's just something to keep monitoring. Or whenever our insurance premiums are due, or big expenses or stuff like that. All right, last thing I'm going to share before we pass things over to Pastor Scott is just one more note on that large-scale HVAC project. And here is where we are at with that project. We were slated to do it this last summer, but that was delayed due to wanting to make sure that we did not spend major funds on this project before or during COVID-19 season. And praise the Lord, that has not, to this point, really hurt our giving. But that being said, we wanted to wait until a later date to do it to be sure there. So the elders have approved for this summer doing the project, but we are still working out the final kinks on where we are going to take that money from. No, we do know this, that it's going to be taken out of reserve funds. It's not going to be taken out of specifically, us asking for money from the church or anything like that. A large portion of it's going to be taken out of our building escrow fund, but we don't have fully that amount in the building escrow fund. So we're still working out and getting approved final details on that. The elders will vote on that in December, and that'll lock us in for that. So the project in and of itself, many of the materials in the project went up 8%, and that's because we cannot buy imported steel. We have to buy U.S. steel this year. So as we're looking at the project with a contingency added for unplanned expenses, we're looking at $350,000. If it's any more for any reason, we have the building escrow fund to take care of that. So with that, again, Reader's Digest version. If you want to get into the technical stuff, I'm glad to share it with you at a later date. But this is as Reader's Digest version as I can share with you. If you were to go out to where the gym area is, there are 2 buildings there. We call them the 200 or 300 building. If you ever get lost and don't know what building you're in, simply look at the room numbers and it's going to tell you. So this area here that now has a square on it is the 300 building. Now currently there is one HVAC system running both of those buildings. And here is the plan. The current HVAC system that we have is going to be taking care of the square building mostly. Now it's also going to be able to help in the classrooms and that kind of stuff in the 200 building, but we're going to put a new HVAC unit in the biggest square that you can see that isn't under the square. So right here in the gym. And we're going to put a new unit there that's going to help heat, dehumidify, cool, take care of everything in the gym there. As we do that then, that's going to take all the pressure off the current unit. Because here's the thing, the current machine is running at 100% capacity all the time. And that's not good for any machine. So this is going to help us be able to preserve our equipment longer. It's going to help us with our biggest facilities need, that HVAC unit. And it's also in many ways going to help us. For example, if you go into those Sunday school rooms, it's going to help dehumidify some of that. It's going to help us with the gym there, with all the issues that we have with that. And I don't know if many of you know this, but so earlier this year, our basketball team, John Landrum, the basketball coach, sends me a text, and it's in the text is a video of the players on the floor, and the wood on the floor is bouncing up and down, which a hardwood floor shouldn't do that. And that's because of the humidity issues in the room were so bad that they were causing the wood to expand and contract way too much. And basically the hardwood gym floor guy basically said to us, hey, if you don't get this fixed, this floor is going to pop and you're going to have a lot bigger issues. So that being said, everything that we're seeing is sharing with us, it's time for us to do that. We did a temporary fix. We bought a big honkin' dehumidifier for $1,000. We got that taken care of for now, but this is going to fix that project those issues long term. So it's going to take care of our biggest need before we think of adding or any buildings or anything like that on, which Pastor Scott's going to share about. So again, that's about as Reader's Digest as I can get on that project. I'm glad to share any more of the specifics with you, just in person, one-on-one, that kind of a thing. Any questions on any of those things or anything that I mentioned that you haven't had a question about so far? Grace. We're allowed the number of people that can fit within this room, which is technically 514 people. Now, I can tell you we can't fit that many chairs in here comfortably. Even if we did that when we had pews, that's literally rear end to rear end at 18 inches each, which not everybody has an 18-inch rear end. So that's up to us. The government, what they're telling us, correct me if I'm wrong on this, is masks and 6 feet of distancing is what they want. They haven't put an occupancy number on us. So, that being said, currently in here right now, you've got about 2/3 of the chairs that we had. So that's why you're getting all that extra space. So, I mean, if we really got in a jam, we could, and it was safe to do so, we could add more chairs. All right, Pastor Scott. It's all you, my friend.
Yeah, I was going to say, where's the clicker? All right. Grace, to further elaborate on your question, I don't think it would be wise right now for us to try to pack in here. I think we're doing a pretty good job. My advice to anybody that has health issues or maybe is getting up there in age with health issues stacked upon top of that is probably to stay home and watch the live stream for a while, practice social distancing, wearing a mask, all that hygiene stuff. So I think we're in a good place. Now, I talk to other people and, one of the first questions, used to be when you would run into another pastor, you'd run into him and the first few questions would be like, well, how big is your church and what's going on right now? And now the question is, are you meeting in person? Are you guys meeting in person or are you doing distance? Are you doing online? So I'm very grateful that we're doing in person and online, kind of a hybrid thing. And to my understanding, it's working out for us pretty good. Okay, I'm just going to take a few minutes to share. I don't have anything, there's nothing to vote on or anything, obviously. But I do want to keep you posted on what's going on with our future thinking. In case you don't know this, we happen to live in an area of the country that has an abnormally, I don't know if it's abnormally, but a high interest in Christian education. Praise the Lord. Christian education at the high school, middle school, elementary level. And so we have quite a bit of homeschoolers in our church. Tracy and I come from homeschooling. We homeschooled our kids till we got here. But we also have the privilege of having a Christian school. And not only that, from where I come from, that would be odd enough, but we also get to play in sports and to fellowship with other Christian schools in the area. And there's enough of them to make a league. So we're part of the Mid-Ohio Christian Athletic League. So this is a great place to be. If you put on top of that, as we watch all of the cultural institutions of our country kind of get swallowed up by strange thinking, unbiblical thinking, we have the opportunity to educate kids here at Delaware Christian School with a biblical worldview. You stack on top of that Delaware is growing, and then you stack up on top of that, Delaware Christian School is full. We're full. Praise the Lord. It's the middle of a global pandemic, and we're full. We have multiple classes at Delaware Christian School that if you had, say, for example, I think an 8th grader, if you tried to enroll an 8th grader at Delaware Christian School, you're going to get, sorry, we can't take you. We're full. So there's future thinking going on about how to remedy that situation. We feel like, as good stewards of Delaware Christian School, that if Delaware as a community is growing, and it is, even in the midst of a global pandemic, that we need to be thinking about expanding the school to meet, to try to educate as many young people as we can reasonably. So anyway, that's what this is all about. So let me tell you what we're thinking about right now. I'm going to show you a picture, and it's probably going to be hard to see. Don, I don't know if you can dim the lights up here or in the room. Maybe just dim the lights in general so we can see better. I'll try to annotate this. Oh, wait. I can't get away from the pulpit because, here, I'll do this. Here we go. Okay, can you maybe just, they're coming? Oh, just can the lights all together. Oh, I didn't do that. I don't want you to zoom in. I want you to shut the lights off. Just shut the lights off. I got it. Okay, so this is our campus, right? This is our campus, and just to orient you, up here is Bell Avenue. This is Sandusky Street out front. This is our parking lot, and this is the church entrance right here, just so you can kind of get a feel. Now I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to zoom in here in a minute, and I'm going to zoom in this area that I've got boxed in. Everybody got that? So I don't want to mess with your eyes. I'm going to zoom in to the area inside the yellow box. So here we go. We're zooming. There. Okay. So this is kind of the back side of our building. Church folks, unless you have a reason to go back here, church folks typically don't go back here too often. It's not that we're keeping you out of here. There's really no reason to go back here. Because we don't have any Sunday school classes or anything. So this building right here, which we affectionately call the upper room, is storage, cold storage. This, what we affectionately call the garage, is a garage. It's got a lot of maintenance stuff in it. This is a modular classroom, which we put in a couple of years ago, and we made an agreement with the city that we would try to get rid of that in a few years. So right now, high school Bible and high school social studies, history, is meeting out here. This is split in half, and there's 2 classrooms in this modular classroom. So this is temporary. We've made an agreement with the city that we would try to get rid of this in 3 years. It's probably going to take us 4 or 5. And then this is another modular, but this is more permanent. This is actually owned by the city schools, and it's called we call it the learning cottages, where we do remediation for our students. So if you need help with math or whatever, there's tutors back here that are paid Delaware City School teachers. It's funny. This would take a whole day to explain, but we get to hire the people, but they're paid by the city. Does that make sense? So it's weird. Anyway, so this is the backside of our building. This building is the 300 building, which Brad's been talking about. And the 300 building, when we built it, is designed to be built onto. Okay, you with me? So I'm going to put another box on the screen, and this is what we're proposing. Okay, we've been working with the folks that have been working on this building in the past, Dean Fraker, Delaware Building Systems, and he's presented to us several different options. I don't think I drew this to scale, by the way, so that looks like a huge honking building. It's probably not that big. But anyway, Dean Fraker has been working with us, and we've been sketching out some options, and this we went through a feasibility study where we talked to a whole bunch of folks in our church and our school, and we tried to figure out how much money we thought we could raise reasonably. And we think that this is, we being, the church and school officials, we think this is the best route to go. Now, I'm gonna play with your eyes again. So I'm about to take this picture and rotate it 90 degrees. You with me? I'm just trying not to mess with you. So I'm warning you ahead of time. I'm going to take this picture and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. You ready? Okay. You with me? Okay. All right. Now what's going to happen is I'm going to take away this view of our campus, and I'm going to put in a sketch of what the building would look like. Okay, here we go. So let me go back one. This is the square. The yellow rectangle is about to be represented by a drawing, and there it is. So again, this is all preliminary. We're still working on it, but this is going to get us something like 12 to 14 classrooms and another set of bathrooms, and all the mechanical rooms and everything like that we need. And this is gonna go on to the 300 building and then extend around the back of the building. So as a church person, as a church person rolling up to the campus to go to church on Sunday, you probably won't even see this building. You'd have to go through the building, through the 300 building, and out the back to get to it. And we may have some Sunday school classes in there eventually, but this is what the current thought is right now. We're still in development. I'm just giving you information, okay? So, again, we're not ready to vote on anything, but I just wanted to show you kind of what we're thinking. So, again, to recap, this is the area that we're thinking. This is kind of what the building would look like. The garage would go away. The upper room would go away. Trust me, those buildings need to go away anyway. They're kind of decrepit. The modular classroom would be taken away. So we'd have to time this really well to try to break ground and then move everything that we need to move and tear down everything we need to tear down to get this up and running by the start of the next school year. Okay, you can turn the lights back on, and I've got a few concluding thoughts here. I want to give you kind of a recap. Again, this is all preliminary information, just trying to keep you informed. This is a approximately $2 to $2.5 million project. Take a deep breath. This is what the folks that did our feasibility study think that we can reasonably raise and not go into any debt. That's always been kind of a thing around here. As long as this church has been going, we've tried to do things without going into debt, which I think is a brilliant idea. I'm against it. I'm against debt if we can help it. So, approximately $2 to $2.5 million project. We are working on refined quotes, refined drawings, and before we move ahead, just to let you know, before we move ahead, we will vote on this as a church. So, if you're not comfortable with the idea for whatever reason of building onto this building, please, now is the time to voice that, and not, the night that we take a vote to do this, because we're putting a lot of work and time and effort into it. But again, here's the rationale. We have the privilege of having a Christian school. Delaware, if Delaware were stagnant or shrinking as a community, I'd say, let's just leave the school the way it is. But it's growing. It's growing, it's growing a lot. People want to move here. And people that in this area have an abnormally high, not abnormally, but a very high interest in Christian schooling. And so we're finding that we're having to turn folks away sometimes. So anyway, we'll vote on this as a church. Even though we're not taking on debt, and we're not planning on taking on debt, we will vote on this as a church. We think as elders, this is a big enough decision that we're going to need to all decide together to do this. Again, we're planning to take on zero debt. That's the plan. Fundraising will begin hopefully early in 2021, Lord willing. And I think that's all that I have. And again, that's probably going to be that might be a year or two-year process or longer. And that's going to involve not only church family, but it's also going to involve school families. And we're even going to try to garner some support out in the community as well for this. Any questions? Kim Summerfield.
You said that you're going to get rid of the one modular. What's going to happen with the second?
It's going to be relocated. Yeah, on the premises. Yes, the learning cottage is something that we have to maintain. It's owned by Delaware City Schools. We would have to relocate it. Yeah.
Any ideas where you'd relocate it?
We have a few thoughts that we've sketched out. None of them would be visible as you roll up to the campus. So they'd be either further this way, so back here on this side of the building, or on the other side of the three. Well, here I can point it out. Yeah. So let me go back to the big picture. Okay. So we could take this. She's talking about this building right here, which is the learning cottage. Once we put in the building, we could relocate the learning cottage back here, or better yet, maybe perhaps back here. Well, I'm sorry. There's a playground back here, but we would not put it. We would not be interfering with the playground. So perhaps there's a grassy area back here. But either one of those two locations would not be visible from the front of the building, if that makes sense. That's a great question, though. Yeah, we would have to. So the modular that we're teaching Bible and history, that would go away, and we already have a buyer for that. The company that sold it to us gets first dibs to buy it back. The garage in the upper room would be demolished, and it's about time. and the learning cottage would be relocated. Pastor Brad brought up something. Currently, we're so packed to the gills in here that we have 3 classes meeting in this room during the school week, and that would go away. Basically, this would give us, in big, broad brushstrokes, okay, here's what this would do for us. We would get, right now, every class has one room. So we can get 20 to 25 students for first grade, 20 to 25 students for second grade, so on and so forth. This would give us 2 of all that. So we do have 2 pre-Ks, and we do have 2 kindergartens. So this would give us 2 first grades, 2 second grades, 2 third grades, 2 fourth grades, so on. That's what it would give us. Now, if you want to think further on down the road, the next thing that we really could use as a multi-purpose room to have as an extra gym space for practices. Right now we're begging, borrowing, and stealing a lot of gym space around the community, and that's hard to get, even harder to get in COVID-19. Now, sports could be shut down in a few weeks if the coronavirus gets out of control, but on a normal year, we still kind of hurt for gym space. Any other questions? Sorry, I'm rambling. Yes, Brian.
With the additional classrooms, will there be money set aside to equip them with desks?
Yes, yeah. That's one of the great things about working with a builder who's worked with us before is they're on top of all that. They're like, hey, you need to set aside X amount for desks and chairs and smart boards, and yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, we're not just going to purchase rooms and leave them bare. We have to put desks and computers and whatever in there. Yeah, we're planning on having, as part of this deal, a dedicated youth space, for our youth group, which would be nice because I think Pastor Aaron just goes wherever we can get some space to have youth groups. So it'd be nice to have a room dedicated for that. And then, we're going to do the best that we can to try to use this space as effectively as we can for the church and the school. Yes?
Do we know about how many students we turned down
I don't know that.
because of space?
I don't know. I just know that right now, and I don't know off the top of my head, if Jane were here, she would know, Jane Miner, but I think we have 4 or 5 classes, grade levels, that are completely capped. You can't get in. So what that does for families is let's say that you have 3 kids and you want to bring them to Delaware Christian School, but one of those is an 8th grader, and 8th grade's full. Then you go, okay, well, I don't want to put 2 of my 3 kids in the school, so it gets messy. But we do have multiple grades that are capped. I think 8th grade, I just know 8th grade because my Ellie is an 8th grader, and it's full. She's an 8th grader. What did you say? Did you say, is she an 8th grader? She is. She is an 8th grader. What do you expect? I got 3 kids in college. Any other questions? Yes, Pat. Yeah, we're going to have to, so the classroom space will open up some storage here in the building, and we're going to have to move some of that inside. Some of that maintenance equipment will have to be relocated. We have a shipping container on the premises now, and we can put some of that maintenance stuff in there. Frankly, some of that stuff in that maintenance room needs to be, we have very little storage space here, so we try to go through that on a routine basis, but we are going to have to relocate some of that stuff for sure. Yeah. The future plans that include a multi-purpose room, which would be theoretically out in the grassy area on that end of the parking lot, would be a nice place for a multi-purpose room. That would include some pretty major storage for gardening stuff and the outdoor equipment, but for a while we'd have to house that inside the building. It's exciting stuff to be, listen, I'm not excited about spending a bunch of money. I'm pretty much of a tightwad, but, to think that God has just placed us in this predicament where our school is good and growing. Jane Miner's doing a fantastic job of making the school excellent, and we just passed ACSI accreditation, meaning Here's what ACSI accreditation means in big picture terms, okay? This is all it means. It means we have gone through and created procedures and processes for all the major things that we're supposed to do, number one, and we've put a process in place to continuously make those things better. That's all ACSI. ACSI accreditation just means that somebody from the outside has came in and checked and made sure that we are doing that. It's awesome. So we have a plan to do all the things that we're supposed to do and to make it better over time. It's kind of like ISO 9000. Yeah. Is that what you said? Yeah. It's exact. Steve is in industry. I came from industry. ISO 9000 was kind of the industry version of that. And I'm finding that those things are true for like every industry has its own version of that, right? The automotive industry has QS 9000, so on and so forth. So, we're in a unique position. Our school is doing great and growing, and, if you ask yourself the question, do we just stay the size we are? Do we try to grow? Given the fact that the community is growing as it is, I think it's good to grow, especially as we see what's going on in public schools these days. We want to provide a good alternative for Christian families. Any questions? Wow, I thought this would take 45 minutes tops, but I talked too long. So I'm going to close this with a word of prayer. If you have any other questions, you can email any of the pastors. You can call me, call Brad, call Aaron, and we'll do the best that we can to get you up to speed. And we will try to, as this building plan unfolds, we'll keep you posted as to what the next steps are. Fair enough? Father, thank you for this night. Thank you for the time that you've been able to give us to share this information. We're encouraged by it. Father, from the things that Pastor Brad has said, as a church, we seem to be weathering the pandemic okay. And so, Father, we're grateful to you for that. And Father, as we think about Sacrifice Sunday, as we think about future plans, we pray your blessing would be on them. Give us wisdom to know how to spend your resources in a way that's pleasing to you. We don't want to be all about buildings and HVAC projects. We want to be about ministry. But having a tool that's running reliably like a building sure does make that a lot more easy. So, Father, we just pray that you would bless these projects and help us to do the right ones at the right time. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.